Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. And also, can you put this a little bit lower, please? Mouth level. And put this for a little bit lower. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, chapter 12, and today we do verse 8 and 9. 8 does not have a purport, so we'll read it and we'll do 9 collectively. Agushamatram amalam spuran purta maulinam aktivya darshanam shyama taditvasanam chutam. He, the Lord, was only some high, but he was all transcendental. He had a very beautiful, blackish, infallible body, and he wore a dress of lighting yellow and helmet of blazing gold. Thus he was seen by the child. Now we'll do verse 9 together. Srimad Dirga Chaturbahum Tapta Kanchana Kundalam Kshata Yaksham Gadapanim Atmanaha Sarvato Yisham Parigramantam Ulkabham Brahmayantam Gadam Mohu Srimatirga Chaturbahum Tapta Kanchana Kundalam Kshata Yaksham Gadapanim Atmanaha Sarvato Yisham Paribramantam Upamam Brahmayantam Gadamuhu Srimadirga Chaturbahu Tapta Kanchina Kundalam Shata Japsham Gadapanim Atmanaha Samito Yisham Paribhramantam Ulkapaham Brahmayantam Gadamu. Srimat, enriched, Dirgha, prolonged, Chaturbahu, four-handed, Tapta Kanchana, molten gold, Kundalam, earrings, Kshatajam, eyes with the redness of blood, Gadapanim, hand with the club, Atmanaha, Sarvataha, all, Jisham, around, Paribhramantam, loitering, Ulkabham, like shooting stars, Brahmayantam, encircling, Gadam, the club, constantly, translation. The Lord was enriched with four hands, earrings of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. The Lord was enriched with four hands, earring of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. Purport by Prabhupada. It is said in Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, that the Supreme Lord Govinda, by his own plenary portion, enters into the halo of the universe and distributes himself as Paramatma, or the Super Soul, not only within the heart of every living being, but also within every atom of the material elements. Just the Lord is all-pervading by his inconceivable potency, and thus he entered the womb of Uttara to save his beloved devotee, Maharaj Parikshit. In Bhagavad Gita 9:31, the Lord assures everyone that his devotees are never to be vanquished. No one can kill the devotee of the Lord because he is protected by the Lord, and no one can save a person whom the Lord desires to kill. The Lord is all-powerful, and therefore he can both save and kill as he likes. He became visible to his devotee Maharaj Parikshit even in that awkward position in the womb of his mother Uttara, in a shape just suitable for his vision. The Lord can become bigger than thousands of universes and can become smaller than an atom at the same time. Merciful as he is, he becomes just suitable to the vision of the limited living being. He is unlimited. He is not limited by any measurements of our calculation. He can become bigger than what we can think of, and he can become smaller than what we can conceive of. But in all circumstances, he is the same all-powerful Lord. There is no difference between the sun-like Vishnu in the womb of Uttara and the full-fledged Narayan in the Vaikuntha Dhamma, the kingdom of Advaita. He accepts the form of Archavigraha, worshipful deity, just to accept service from his different incapable devotees. By the mercy of the Archavigraha, the form of the Lord, the material elements, the devotees who are in the material world can easily approach the Lord, although he is not conceivable by the material senses. The Archavigraha is therefore an all-spiritual form of the Lord to be perceived by the material devotees. Such an Archavigraha form of the Lord is never to be considered material. There's no difference between matter and spirit for the Lord, although there's a gulf of difference between the two in the case of the conditioned entity being. For the Lord, there is nothing but spiritual existence, and similarly, there's nothing except spiritual existence for the pure devotee of the Lord in his intimate relation with the Lord. Om Gyani Chimanam Shankyanam Shilabhya Chakshurumilitam Dinam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So very amazing verse and very amazing purport. I'll read the verse again for our Srimad Dirga Chaturbaham Tapta Kanchina Kundalam Kshatrajaksham Gadam Bani Atmanaha Sarvatodisham Paribramantam Urkhabaham Brahmayantam Gadam. The Lord was enriched his four hands, earrings of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. So also quite an interesting word in this particular verse is the word loitering, the word loitering. Generally, loitering doesn't have the most respectful connotation. Like, let's say somebody comes to the temple and we say, oh, they were just loitering around. What does that mean? They were loitering. What did they do? Yeah, moving here, they going to the door, is Govinda's open, looking to the bathroom, checking out the plants, if there are any prasadam, parking lot. They forgot there, whatever they forgot. So that's called loitering about. You loiter, there doesn't seem to be an aim. But here the aim is very specific, and it says the Lord is going in a circle, and it's encircling Parikshit. Of course, at that time, he may not have had that name, because it was at that time that he saw the Lord some high, and later on he was looking for the Lord everywhere. He was looking, he thought, who came some high? Who was this? With a helmet, with a mace, with a club in his hand, walking around me, circling around, and with eyes red with fury. So this is also very beautiful. And the eyes can, you see, especially in Indian art, you can see the eyes reddish, and it can be with fury, but it can also be with love. The eyes become agitated with love. And it's actually part of, generally Indian art has a touch of red in the eye because it gives an animate look. It's a very animate look. So Krishna, of course, then at the time was not considered Krishna per se, but the Lord appeared in four-armed form like Vishnu. It is said sometimes that Parikshit saw Krishna as a form of a Purusha Narayan. So he saw him as Purusha Narayan. So, but when you do the research, there's so many different understandings of these, you can say these darshans of the Lord, that each sampradaya has its own version, like Gaudiya Sampradaya, to which Vivekananda has his own version also. The Smartas have their own version. So, depending on your point of view, there's so many different views. And of course, depending also on your individuality, if I ask, there's not many people sitting here, going to tourism, and a few online. If I ask your opinion how you see the Lord, you'll see that we all see him differently because of our individuality. And that is exactly emphasized in this verse. Prabhupada calls the devotees material devotees, very interesting, material. They're in a material world, but they're seeing a Vishnu who is spiritual in Murti form. See, that's another thing. It says for the Lord, there's no difference between material and spiritual, because the Shakti may appear as material in the material world, but there's no difference. I was just considering this very small definition sometimes of what is material and what is spiritual, and one of them is very simple. You say this is material, that is spiritual, and also, of course, in my own writing, when I write that, and I write it with a capital T, then it becomes tat, 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 Twamasi, you are that. You're not this. Does that make sense to you? How do you like that definition? This and that. What do you think of it? Yeah, and but this means close. This is my bag. But that is further removed. This is not that. This is what is close. This is my view. You see? So this has a closeness, and that has more of a distance. But that closeness of this and this and this as an object is often what bewilders us, because we are material persons. We see the object in a material sense. We see it with material eyes. This is also why Prabhupada has put, give emphasis to deity worship in the temples to make us realize that there is a higher reality which can actually be ascertained even if one appears in a material body. So we all have material bodies. We go to school, we go to work, we get married, we get divorced, we do all of these material things. But in the meantime, we're actually spiritual. Yesterday, in Prabhupada's class, he gave the class yesterday, he mentioned, he says, you actually are God, you small gods. He says, you are small, teeny gods. He says, you are God in small form. So it's very interesting, because if you say at any time, we are also God, but it has to be modified by an adjective, you say small. But it's very interesting, because the qualities are the same, but the quantity is different. Of course, we cannot even conceive of the qualities of God. So how can we conceive of our own quality? See, impossible to even conceive of or to articulate. Like if I ask Victor, I say, Victor, what are your godly qualities? What's godly about me? Tell you. Can you say anything? What is godly about you? Certainly not your dress. What is godly? In what way are you a little God? A little God. Okay, see? He's such a little God that he cannot say. It's very good. That means he's rising. Lilananda, come close for a minute. Okay, because he always wants to hold forth as if he's a rising God. Yes? So in what way are you a little God? Teeny, as Prabhupada says. That's good. You have prana, you have breath. The power of thought, very good. Shakti, the Shakti of thinking, manas. And the power of seeing, darshan. And that is because you have consciousness. And that is the whole point. We are the essence of consciousness. But often we don't really forget it, because our consciousness is polluted. So your consciousness makes you think, oh, I'm sick, I'm poor, or I'm rich, I'm happy, or I'm very fortunate, whatever you think. But that is your consciousness, and when you die, I don't even use the word die, when you leave your body, you also leave your mind, but that consciousness is there, and then consciousness takes on another body according to what is apropos. You can almost say what you deserve, what is your karma, what is your absence of your karma. So that is the kind of body you take again. But that body is this. You are that. Twamasi. You are that. It's so beautiful. So as soon as we begin to distinguish between what I really am and what I appear to be, then we can become self-realized. And that's the first step, is to understand that there is a difference between who I think I am and who I really am. And that's why, I mention it all the time, of course, the famous saying, Sanskrit saying, Koham, Soham, Koham, Kaha, Aham, who am I? And then it's answered, Saha, Aham, he and I, we are one. I'm small, he or she. You see, it's very amazing. So Now we're reading these events about Parikshit. Pari, remember the name again, Pari means parikrama. What does parikrama mean literally? What is it? Yeah, Sugama means, but pari means to go around. And krama, you're walking around. It's a walking around, and generally it's in a circle. If you come back to the center, you know, if you go parikram, you don't come back. Generally, it's not considered parikram. So parikram is encircling. And this is exactly what is stated in the verse, that the Lord was encircling, and here it's called Brahma Yantam. So Brahma, of course, is for Westerners, even Indians, to pronounce it, it's aspirated, very difficult to say, Brahma Yantam. So that word Brahma generally means, often it can be confused because you don't know what you're doing. It means going here, going there. And then it is supported, of course, by the other word that we just heard, that is, he's doing parikramantam, loitering. It's very interesting. They would have given that translation because parikraman, it means it kind of encirculated. So the Lord was encirculating the child in the womb. I read everywhere that he was unconscious or that he was stillborn, or I read some remarks about how he was stillborn and then he awakened when he saw the Lord some high. And of course, he's just an embryo in a womb. And what is so beautiful, that the body was the size of the embryo. It could have been the size of the sun. And what is the size of God? Same size, like a sun. Very, very small. So it says God can be like sun-like, or he can be huge as the universe, or he can be as small as an atom. So this is so beautiful. There's no description of the Lord that we cannot relate to somehow or other. He is all-pervading, he is in a rose, and the rose is in him. All of these items are there. We can see God in everything. It says he is in every item. So if a scientist thinks that there's God in an atom, and there's what you call in physics action at a distance, there is action at a distance between atoms. There can be action, even though they're not close. But they're not close only in physical terms. Everything in the spiritual world is related very closely to everything else. We say, even Western philosophy, they say everything is related to everything else. And isn't that true? It doesn't matter what we say. If I say sun, what is related to the sun? Yeah, light. What else is related to the sun? Anything. Yeah, the sun is related to the earth, and the sun is related to the moon. Go ahead, what else? What? Yeah, the Father. You're making a very nice slesha. Thank you very much. He's substituting an O for the U. So let him take a little sip of water to swallow that one. He likes to make sleshas. Slesha means fun. And I call fun. P-H-U-N. How do you like that for fun? So the sun, obviously, most of all, is related to, you can say, vision. Without the sun, there's no light. So the sun is related to our ability to see. So there's nothing you can name that doesn't have a counterpart or doesn't have a setting somewhere that is apropos to its understanding. So just like if you have a concept of heart, like a heart, let me say this floor, heart, what do you call this floor again? Not cement, what do you call it? Marble? Marble. So what is the opposite of heart? A hard floor. You're from India, you know what kind of floor. Yeah, this is hard. What is the floor in India? The typical floor. Yeah, gold. It's a gold floor. It's very, very soft. And when I lived in India, everywhere I live, I make a gober floor. And because it's soft, you can walk on it. It has a nice temperature. Walking on marble is very unhealthy. Walking on the gober floor is very healthy. I even did it in one of my apartments here. Put it on the wall and the floor, but they told me that this is not apropos because somebody else moved to your apartment. they don't want the gober, so we're not going to give you a refund on your rent money. I said, okay, whatever. But I love my gober. It's so beautiful. I'll make it myself. You mix it, you put it on the wall. So everything is related to everything else, just like beauty, the concept of beauty. I mean, when you read the description, of course, of Vishnu and Narayan, whatever you want to call the Lord, it may appear beautiful to some, but it may not appear so beautiful to others. And that was reminding me of yesterday when I came to the temple and I saw how the deities were dressed. And I saw it from a distance because I do reception at night at my art table, and I came in from it. The deities were outstandingly beautiful, and they completely stood out. And I knew right away who dressed them. One person is my favorite dresser, and they always dress Krishna and Radha down in a way, so you can see. When you're looking at the altar, there's no clothes that obscure them. You can see the outline, absolutely beautiful. So there's different ways of seeing the deity, and we all have our own style. You know, you can see Krishna in a very opulent way, in Vaikuntha style, or you can see Krishna in a Vrindavan style. And when you go to Vrindavan, of course, you can see Krishna in a pair of shorts, you know, what looks like shorts, you know, little shorts, and there he is hot. And he's comfortable because it's 110 degrees. So what are you going to do? Dressed in Lord, 3 layers of plastic clothing? No. So then you don't understand that is God. So that's your God, and he has to be comfortable. So you have to relate to the Murti. And that's one of the reasons we have the Murti, because we have also many different Murtis. We have Lord Jagannath and his brother and sister. We have Krishna Balaram. We have Nitya Gaur. We have so many, and we have different forms of Radha and Krishna. So we can all relate to a certain form or to a certain set of clothing. Every day they have a new dress. And not only do they have a new dress, every week a different color, the same color every week a day. But at the same time, so many dresses, we have a couple of containers on our property that holding just dresses of the Lord that they've been wearing for 10, 20, 30 years. Very beautiful. And you can also say that this style may change a little bit, but the essence is that the deity is always served with very high love, high regard, and also with, you can say, certain standards. Certain standards, like deity worship is not something just casual. It's not like coming to the temple for darshan. One has to learn all the rules and regulations and try and understand them. So here then Krishna is given, he's getting a vision of what is God. And you can also see what I wanted to mention today is that the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, only Canto 1, only chapter 12, Vyasa did not speak in chapters, neither did Shaunaka, neither did Sutta. Nobody spoke in terms of chapters. That was later. Actually, Bhagavatam is only composed as we know it in the 12th century. It's very new. Vishnu Purana only 400 or 500 years ago. So then it was put together as a book, and we think, it was spoken in verses. But it's not like this. It was spoken, contiguously. So what we have to understand is, can you think of any reason why we're starting with the birth of Parikshit so early in this book? Can anybody think of it? Don't feel bad if you can't think of it. That is true, but one of the reasons is to give authenticity to the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam was not known. It was an unknown book. The Vedas were there, the Upanishad were there. There was no Bhagavatam. The Ramayana was there, but it was considered what you call Smriti. So, just like the Vedas and the Upanishad called Shruti, that which is heard. And this later on what came were like different interpretations, but mostly what you call Kahani, mostly narratives. And these narratives, then of course it was said, these are, we say of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is a footnote to the Upanishads, or a footnote to actually Vedanta Sutra, you see, because Vedanta Sutra is a philosophical summary of all the Vedas. So this is not only a summary, this is again unpacking what the Vedanta Sutra actually is. So then you have to begin with the authority. If you hire somebody to do something for you, like a lawyer, you want to make sure the person is qualified, the person knows the language to speak in the court. Then you have to study all the features, and then you can hire that person. Or even if you adopt a child, you want to know something, who were the parents, and so many things. So this is like giving a genealogical explanation of how this Bhagavatam originated, who was the inquirer, and who was the speaker. So this is why this is just starting. If you look at the Sanskrit, it's only a couple of pages really. It's a couple of pages till you come to this chapter. The purport make it 10 times bigger, more than 10, 20 times. So this is to establish the authority of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's no Krishna in the Vedas. There's a concept of Krishna as four-armed, but it comes much later. And here, we don't even want the concept, not only the concept of God with four arms, but we want the concept of God with two arms. Because God with four arms, you can't relate to either. That's too formal. So Prabhupada gave us the middle way by giving us Radha and Krishna in the most opulent form. We don't say they were dressed like this in the village. Krishna's covered with dirt. Very different. But in Vaikuntha, this is Radha and Krishna, this is the mood. So Prabhupada so beautifully gave us this Vaikuntha mood of Radha and Krishna, so we can have a proper understanding. They're not just play dolls or some imagination or some Bollywood story, some love story. Because if it's made too common and too ordinary, then nobody can relate to it. So this is, Prabhupada made a very beautiful way to establish the deity in a form that demands awe and reverence, doesn't it? It demands awe and reverence. So that way we can relate to Krishna, and also then we can I wouldn't say dummy it down, but then we can also put it down to even a lower level where Krishna has only two arms, and where he doesn't wear a fancy dress, and he doesn't wear a golden crown. When he goes to the forest to take care of the cows, he wears a turban, just a little turban, piece of cloth. Yes, otherwise how can he play if there's a crown on his head? You see, so it's very simple. So the scriptures then are given to us in such a way that we can understand what we should take from a particular chapter or a particular canto, and how we can apply it so that when we come to the 10th canto, that we can see how Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. Because how can we understand that this child can lift? We cannot even conceive of it. Millions, trillions of pounds of dirt, it doesn't make any sense. How he lifts it on a finger, you see. So then we have to enter into a completely different world of elements. The elements are not what I think is sand or dirt or bhumi. It has to have a new concept. So I cannot have a new concept unless I have a new concept of myself. That's why our philosophy begins with, you can say, the science of self-realization. Prabhupada never insisted that it should be called the science of God realization. It is the science of self-realization. So why is that? What would you say, Victor? Why is it the science of self-realization? Why does it begin with the self before God? Exactly. If you do not know who you are, if let's say I'm looking at some Sanskrit text, but if I don't know that I can't read the script and I can't understand the language and can't understand it, then I think, oh no, what is this? Am I blind? No, you understand that you have not come to that level. So Prabhupada teaches us how to come to the level where we can see Krishna. And the first line that we've heard ad infinitum, of course, Prabhupada's line, you're not this body. And that's the whole point. You are not this body. And of course, I always, when I talk to other people, I don't generally say, you are not this body, because people can't quite relate to it. You are not this body. You're not this body, but you do have a spiritual body. And it is for you to discover what is that spiritual body. Then we bring in the theory of the different rasas, the different relationships with Krishna. So beautiful. And it makes sense because this body, when it dies,